All right, Greg, we're back, and we're going to talk a little Kansas City Chiefs football and star quarterback Patrick Mahomes. You sell me on why the Chiefs are making a mistake by bringing him back early.
Chris, we're
Greg.
talking about we're talking about one of the youngest, if not the youngest MVP in NFL history.
Mhm.
He is a guy who was the MVP of the league. He was the offensive player of the year. Obviously a Pro Bowler, an all-pro selection.
Mhm.
This is a guy who, for no reason, should be forced back into this season right now. He dislocated his kneecap.
Mhm.
I don't care what your tests say. I don't care what the doctors say. Let's think about the future. Let's think about the future for just a second. What are we doing? He's 24 years old. He's 24 years old. They're 5-2. They're not in any danger to miss the playoffs. I guess they're 5-3
Yes,
now.
they are,
because they
Greg.
lost
Already you're wrong.
So they're 5-3. The division, the Raiders are 3-4. They're not good. The Chargers are 3-5. Ever since Melvin Gordon came back, they're somehow not good.
Yeah.
The Broncos are a dumpster fire who are basically benching Joe Flacco in the terms of a neck injury that just magically appeared after a press conference where he bashed the entire coaching staff. The Chiefs, unless they're that concerned about home field advantage, which didn't help them last year in the playoffs, unless that's their biggest concern, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Matt Moore is not. He showed in that Thursday night game, or not in the Thursday night game, in the game over the weekend, the Sunday night game, that he is a competent quarterback. He is a competent enough backup to move the ball down the field. The Chiefs have enough weapons to put him in a position where they can win. Just so happens they played Aaron Rodgers. They made a couple key mistakes, a Shady McCoy fumble. Stop rushing this guy back. There's no point in risking his long-term future. I mean, just think. If he's 24 and he's already playing at an MVP level, let's just say he probably has minimum 10 more years left to play well when he hits 34. And granted, he probably slow down in the early 30s, depending on the style. Well, actually, he doesn't really play that style.
Yeah.
He doesn't really do the running style. He could go for another 15 years.
Yeah, agreed.
And you're a franchise that becomes set, like the Patriots have been with Tom Brady, like the Colts were with Peyton Manning, like the Giants were for like 2 seasons with Eli Manning, like the Chargers have been, where they haven't had to worry about quarterbacks. This guy is a special talent. Why? Do not, Andy, please, I beg you, do not bring him back in Week 10 for no reason. Do not bring him back in Week 11. Give him some time to let this injury heal. Your offensive line is Swiss cheese. It's the reason he's hurt in the first place. He was already banged up, and then a QB sneak and a freak injury dislocates a knee.
Yeah.
It's dumb to risk all of your future to maybe win 10 games when you can win the division much easier than that.
Fun story. I feel like we just had a little earthquake here in California. The state is it's collapsing in on itself, is the best I can say.
Move home, Chris.
Yeah, but okay. So Matt Moore, you pass this guy off as being adequate. I don't know that that's the case. You know, I think he got lucky in this game against Green Bay. He looked fine. He completed 66% of his passes, whatever. How about that week before when he was just kind of terrible against Denver? 10 of 19, 117, completed half of his passes against a bad Denver defense. He's averaging about 160 yards passing game, something along those lines. That's to Patrick Mahomes' 328. And I think the biggest issue that I have with any of this is that your conceit is that, they're rushing him back before he's ready. I would argue that I don't think there's a chance that they're going to put this guy on the field 1 second before they're entirely comfortable with where he is physically. So I trust in Kansas City here. I really do. I trust in Andy Reid, and I trust in that front office to put their players in the best positions for their long-term health. I agree completely that this is not a guy you're going to take risks with. You mentioned 15 years, and crazy as it is to hear that, it also seems entirely feasible. We're seeing what what all these older quarterbacks, Roethlisberger prior to this year and Phillip Rivers this year and Drew Brees and Tom Brady are doing in their late 30s to, mid 50s in the case of Tom Brady. It's unbelievable. And, I don't see Mahomes as a guy, like nobody expects Lamar Jackson is going to be a Pro Bowler when he's 35. It's not going to happen. My guess is that Lamar Jackson is going to suffer an injury because of the way he plays on pace. I think we talked about this early. Jackson is on pace to break the NFL single-season rushing yards record for the quarterback position. He's 10th in the NFL in rushing overall. But he's going to get hurt. Mahomes, I don't think so. Mahomes is not a runner. Mahomes is a guy who sits in the pocket and relies on his otherworldly arm talent to win him games, and that's not going to go away. Maybe that that diminishes a little bit, but 90% of Patrick Mahomes is still in the top 5% of arm talent of any quarterback who's ever played football. So I'm not super worried about that. I don't think they're going to put him on the field before he's ready to be there. I just don't. I think they're smarter than that. So I trust Kansas City. When they say he's back, I trust that. I don't think they're going to rush him.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and the problem is we've seen this time and time again with sport franchises where winning is the be-all, end-all. Being the best is where it goes, and risking things in situations like that, it happens. It certainly happens. And I mean, of course, if you're Mahomes, and Reed keeps saying this, that, hey, well, he wants to get back out there. He told me that night that he wanted to get back in the game. Of course Mahomes is going to push that because that's the kind of guy he is. That's the passion he has for playing football. He wants to be out there and win the game for his team. But sometimes you have to step in there and make sure that everything here makes sense from a long-term perspective, not just from a football perspective, but from a life perspective.
Yeah.
We're talking about a serious knee injury. Luckily, nothing else was damaged, but how well is that knee back in there? How well is that kneecap back in there? I mean, the Chiefs' offensive line isn't exactly, the Great Wall of China here where it's going to be sort of impenetrable and Mahomes isn't going to get hit or somebody could roll up on it, and now it's more susceptible because it was just recently dislocated. It's like if you dislocate your shoulder, right? Mm-hmm. The first time it happens, it's really, really hard. But the times after that, the subsequent times after that, it becomes a lot easier for it to pop in and out, and then all of a sudden you're 50 years old at family parties doing tricks where you could pop your shoulder out of socket. You know what I mean?
This sounds like a very specific example.
No, actually it's not. It's more, I wish I had an uncle that could do that. It'd be hilarious. But it's just more of that thought process, and it made me think about it because I had a buddy who played college football, and he, in his senior year of high school, dislocated his shoulder in a practice, just a simple tackling drill, hit some guy the wrong way, dislocated his shoulder, and then from then on, it was always an issue. Ended up having to get surgery in college while he was playing. Would have to wear a specific brace to keep it in place because it would constantly pop out. Dislocations are a serious thing. It's not, and especially when you're talking about a knee, It's a weird thing to be like, yeah, after a week or 2 weeks, we have a bye, so it's 3 weeks. He's back. We're just going to go. I feel like it's not being fully thought out yet.
This is an incredibly smart organization. I don't think they're going to risk the long-term health of one of their guys just to get him back for, a Week 10 game that is ultimately not the most important game in the world. I do want to get your take on this division a little bit because obviously what the Raiders and the Chargers are doing is going to impact what the Chiefs need to do. Two interesting games this weekend. We have Detroit at Oakland and Green Bay at LA. And Detroit at Oakland, Bovada has +2 for the Raiders. Where do you land on that?
I like Detroit as a live dog there. I don't think Oakland is as good as they've sort of showed. I mean, they beat what turned out to be a very bad Bears team. They also beat what turned out to be a very, very bad Broncos team. I mean, they're not exactly world beaters, and when it comes to the better competition, I think that's kind of showed with the Raiders. The Chargers the Lions are, I think, much better than I think we're giving them credit for.
What are you basing that on? Yeah, what are you basing that on?
I mean, the Lions are in every game. They're not getting blown off the field. And they have the talent around Matt Stafford, and he's a guy that's been around the league for a long time, and he can make the throws, and he's playing better than he has, pretty much all of his career. He's limiting his turnovers, which I think is huge, and he's been overall much better now this year for some reason. And their defense obviously worries me. I mean, trading away your team captain and starting safety, 8 weeks into a season, not exactly the biggest vote of confidence. But I think in this game in Oakland, they certainly have a real shot. And I don't want to take away what Oakland did to the Colts, because the Colts have had a very good year under their circumstances. But I just think that this Oakland team just doesn't do it for me. I don't know what it is.
So I have to pick, I mentioned this in the past, I have to pick 5 games every week for this picks competition I'm doing. And, I picked all games, I guess the Thursday night game, and 4 games at 10 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock normal people time. And I found myself 4 for 4 with just the Colts game going on. And I'm watching that Colts game. The Colts get the ball back with about 1:26. And Von Miller has a chance to sack Jacoby Brissett in the end zone for a safety that would end the game and win it for the Broncos. Brissett breaks away, throws a strike down the sidelines, 45 yards to T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y.
Oh my goodness, what an ending to that game! I've never been more excited watching a Colts game. Colts end up winning. I end up going 5 for 5. All hail me. But super exciting. That Colts team. And what Frank Reich is doing is extraordinary. He's my coach of the year if I had a vote. It's impressive. Let's go to this Green Bay and LA game. The Packers at the Chargers, and Bovada's got the Chargers +4.
Yeah, I think the Packers take this. Mm-hmm. The Chargers team, despite getting the win on yet another Bears missed field goal last week, this team's just not very good. I don't know what it is. I think that their rushing game, I mean, they started off the season with two games of above 100 yards rushing on the ground, and since then they haven't cracked 80. And I know, the Melvin Gordon return was supposed to rejuvenate something, but I actually think it took away from this offense.
Yeah.
I think they were using the combination of Jackson and Austin Eckler in such a way that it was helping keep this offense moving and going down the field, and they were doing something better. And ever since Melvin Gordon returned to the lineup, it seemed to have dissipated. Also, their defense outside of Bosa kind of stinks. Keenan Allen's been sort of non-existent for the last couple of weeks. I know this week he struggled with a hamstring injury, but his production's gone down. They just seem like a mess right now. And I know they fired Ken Wisenhunt on Monday, but they got to do something. Also, is Ken Wisenhunt like the most fired offensive coordinator of all time?
It's
like him and Todd Haley.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Him and Todd Haley are like the two guys that just go neck and neck.
Ken Zampese, too.
Yeah, who can be the next offensive coordinator fired? It's honestly unreal. But the Chargers, I know going east, it's not, the Packers aren't east, but it's far enough away from San Diego that I think this is a relatively easy Packers win. Now, of course, I say that now. The Chargers will probably beat them outright, just because that's the way this works. And I'm totally not just a bitter at Melvin Gordon guy because he ruined Austin Eckler as a really good fantasy player. Mm-hmm. But there's just something about ever since he's returned that's thrown this offense sort of through a loop.
All right. Well, I think, as is sort of the concept of this show, we're in fundamentally different places with the Patrick Mahomes thing. Getting back to that and wrapping it up, I'm so confident in this organization that they're not going to risk one of their guys. They're going to do what is best and what is smart, and will not put him on the field if there's any major risk of re-injury. So that is my argument here. I trust in Andy Reid is where it goes.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly understandable. But when I hear dislocated knee, I just don't think 1 to 4 weeks on an injury. I just don't. And I think no matter what you do, I'm not saying you have to keep him out the whole season, but a little precaution probably makes it goes a long way in this situation.
I agree with you. The one thing you're not factoring in is Patrick Mahomes is clearly not a human being. He's some sort of football playing android sent here from the future to win MVP awards and show us just how inept our people are at actually playing this game. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.